Hey, friend. Welcome back to the Created Worthy podcast. I am your host and fellow worthy warrior, Danielle Damrell. On this show, we are creating space for genuine connection by unifying women of all ages, backgrounds, and experiences. So grab your favorite drink and get ready to listen as we take a deep dive into our stories, making sure to honor and protect them in the process. We will also uncover the threads of creative processing that have already played a part in each of our lives. When we know how to utilize this as a skill, we can continue growing into the joy-filled, triumphant women we are created to be. You are created worthy. Hello, welcome back to the Created Worthy podcast. Today, I am joined by another worthy warrior, Monina Wright. Monina is a licensed esthetician and professional makeup artist, speaker, beauty trainer, leader of the top-ranked bridal makeup team in the Bay Area, and mother of two. As the founder and CEO of Modern Beauty Agency, she has worked and mentored many makeup artists, offering her makeup and skincare expertise to prepare women entrepreneurs to look and feel their best on camera and in live presentations. Prior to becoming an entrepreneur, she spent 4 years in education and 3 years in corporate America. She is a frequent speaker to women's groups on proper makeup techniques for film and video, as well as how to maintain healthy, glowing skin. Monina's work has been featured on TV and movies, as well as in M Magazine and several wedding blog posts and publications. She is passionate about helping female entrepreneurs embrace their natural beauty and feel confident in their own skin, both on and off camera. And her bridal team services brides throughout the Bay Area, Monterey, and Tahoe area. Monina, thank you so much for joining me today on the Created Worthy podcast. I am so excited to hear more about your story.
Oh, thank you, Danielle, for asking me to be on your show. I'm so honored to be here. So thank you.
Yes, of course. So let's get started. I would love to start with how in the world did you end up in the makeup field?
um, yeah, it's funny because it was kind of an accident. um, what I mean by that is, okay, so as a kid growing up, I just at the age of 10, I really started to develop really, really bad acne. And my mom had really beautiful skin, so she really didn't know what to do for me. So, unfortunately, the only thing she knew what to do was to take me to a dermatologist. And at the time, all they would ever give me is like the latest, drug or antibiotic. And what's interesting is now that I think about it, back then they never even asked me like what I was doing or what I was eating. They never really dove into what would be causing it.
Right.
So, moving forward, now that I know, now that I'm in the aesthetics field, I understand that the relationship between your gut health and your skin health. And unfortunately, and I think this happens a lot still, is people don't pay attention to the gut health. And so the antibiotics was actually creating worse. It was actually worsening my acne. And then by the time I got to junior high and high school, I started to develop really, really bad, what they call vulgaris acne. And so it would leave really bad scarring on the skin. And so even if I wasn't breaking out, the scarring alone was just really, it just affected my when I looked in the mirror. I just didn't like what I saw.
Yeah.
So it got to the point, and I was a really active kid. I wanted to do everything, but having that like lack of confidence and just hating what I look like, I had to do something about it. So I begged my mom if I could start wearing makeup. Because that was the only thing I can think of to like at least get rid of some of the redness, some of the discoloration, so I wouldn't feel so self-conscious about leaving the house. So and back then, that was a pretty big deal because I'm a Filipino. In a Filipino household, we couldn't put nail polish on, we couldn't wax, we couldn't do makeup. It was
Oh,
like something you just didn't do. And so for her to allow me to wear makeup in 8th grade was a big deal. But she saw that it really did elevate my confidence. And so now moving forward, when I do see women who don't like their way their skin looks, I could feel for them. I really know how when you look in the mirror, how much that really affects your confidence. So whether you're just, going on on camera for business or just to go visit family, just that confidence that you have, is so important. And it's not vanity. To me, it's like having good, healthy skin is the health. There's a health benefit to it, right? Like for me, the whole gut health issue. Once I actually figured out that that was the issue, I met my first esthetician in college, and she actually was the very first person to ever tell me to take a journal and figure out, do I have triggers? Because we do. A lot of us, our bodies get affected by certain things. And for me, the big one was sugar and dairy. And as a
Oh,
kid, that's all I drank was milk
right.
with
Yes,
every
and lots
meal,
of
right?
sugar.
Exactly. And so, come to find out that that creates something called candida in your gut lining. And that's what was causing all of the breakouts. So,
Wow.
after college, then I really developed a passion for skincare. So that's how come I then went back to school after I graduated from college and I got my license in aesthetics. Because yeah, once the makeup
Wow.
started to happen, I started getting really good with makeup because I was always covering up my discoloration, and I was learning how to make my skin look good, even though maybe it wasn't that healthy. I was at least covering it up. And then moving forward, all of a sudden, everyone started asking me to do their makeup. So in college, I was like the go-to person to doing their makeup and their hair. Then after college, everyone started getting married, and that's how I stumbled into the bridal industry. And yeah, it was actually an accident. It wasn't
Yeah.
something I do. All of a sudden, people were just calling me and asking me if I could do their wedding makeup. And at the time, I was at corporate, and I remember the very first client called me, who wasn't a friend of mine. She said that she had seen my work. She was at someone's wedding and asked how much I charged because she was going to get married. Well, I told her, I said, "Oh, can I get back to you because I'm in the middle of something?" Well, I hung up and I told my husband, I said, "Okay, she's asking me how much do I charge?" And he goes, "Well, give her a number." But I didn't know, I wasn't in business.
So
I
simple.
no idea.
Really, you think it's that simple?
So I had I so what I did was I just looked to see like, okay, kind of like what's the medium range, like what's the low end, what's the high end, and then I just came up with a medium range. And to this day, I'm pretty much the same. I try to stay in the mid, not the high or the low. I'm always in the middle. So I want to be able to service as many women as I can. Like just for me, I know how important it is to look your best, especially on your wedding day. So
Right.
yeah, that's
Oh
how it.
my goodness. So at what point were you able to go from being in corporate America? And you had mentioned education as well. Do you want to go back a little bit and talk to us about what your career looked like before you did start taking on clients professionally?
Yeah, it's actually so crazy how everything worked out because, like I said, I went to school not thinking makeup at all, or aesthetics, or cosmetology. And
Yeah,
I
but
tell my parents, I said, "I'm so sorry. I could have saved you so much money if I could just went to straight to cosmetology school." But no, again, being in an Asian household, college was very important.
yeah.
So I did go off to college. I went to UCSD, graduated from there.
What did you get your degree in?
I actually started as a bio major because I thought I was going to
Oh,
well, but that physics and I didn't get along very well, so I ended up switching. My sophomore year, I switched to developmental psychology because I had taken a
interesting.
psychology class over the summer and I really, really, really enjoyed it. And I wanted to work with kids in some capacity. So I went ahead and changed my major to developmental psychology. And so that's what I graduated with. And that actually, come to find out, translates into early childhood education units. So
Oh,
right out of college, I was able to teach in the preschool and kindergarten level because I wanted to work with kids.
yeah.
When my mom said, "Oh, I want you to be a doctor," I said, "Okay, well, maybe I can be a pediatrician." But again, like I said, unfortunately, med school was not on the horizon for me. So I went into
Unfortunately slash fortunately,
yes,
right?
yes, exactly. It wasn't meant to be, obviously, but I
Yes.
really loved kids. I wanted to work with kids. So when I found out I could actually teach with my developmental psychology degree, I was really, really excited. So right out of college, I went into a private preschool and I taught a junior kindergarten class for a couple of years. Really loved it. Loved working with the kids and seeing them grow and flourish. So that's where my heart was. I really, really wanted to make an impact somehow. And I felt like teaching these young humans from a young age was my way of doing that. Unfortunately, this was over 20 years ago. I mean, granted, it was over 20 years ago, but the last school I was at, I was actually the director of the school, and I was only getting $9 an hour.
Are you serious? You're like,
Yeah.
"How do I live off of this?" And you Kate, you have an education, so I assume
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, it's very sad, and then just imagine I was the director getting $9 an hour, so imagine how little my teachers were getting paid, and I mean, it broke my heart, but I had to leave, because I just couldn't live on that, especially in the Bay Area. So I made the decision to leave, teaching, and I was just kinda taking a little break trying to figure out what I was gonna do, and I was offered a temporary job at Cisco Systems. So I worked there for the next 2.5 years. And on my
Cisco, is that a distribution company? What is Cisco?
Oh, it's funny you say that. Cisco, no, so not Cisco the distribution, Cisco the, computer company here in the
Oh,
South.
okay. Okay.
So, they were pretty new at the time, and, I went in and it was good money. I had, all of the benefits and everything that everyone wants, but I I couldn't do it. Being a creative, sitting down in a cubicle for 8 hours, I was
Yes.
dying slowly.
So crushing.
It
Yeah.
was, and I realized it at the time, but then all of a sudden I started to develop migraines. I
Mm,
hated getting up in the morning to go to work. I'm like, "This is not the life I intended to live,"
yeah.
waking up and not I mean, you were waking up and waiting for the weekend to come. I didn't want that to be my life. And of course, just having the migraines from being on the computer all day long, definitely was not the the route I wanted to take. So, with the encouragement of my husband, actually, if it wasn't for my husband, we wouldn't be talking today because
Mhm.
he saw how um, working at corporate was just depleting me of any joy, any creativity. I was miserable. So he
Yeah.
saw that I lit up whenever I went and did weddings because I was doing weddings on the side. But it was more or less for fun at that point. And he's the one who suggested, why don't you turn that into a full-time career? And at first I looked at him and I thought, "Are you crazy? My parents paid for me to go to college and I can't just do makeup now." And it really got me to think, what does make me happy? And it definitely wasn't corporate. Teaching made me happy, but it doesn't pay the bills.
Mhm.
So I got I was fortunate enough to have a husband who realized I wasn't reaching my full potential, and he said, "I will create a studio for you," because we had 3 bedrooms. We didn't have kids yet. So he turned one of the rooms into a home studio for me.
Wow.
Yeah, and he said, "Just quit your Cisco job and just do this full time." So, yeah, I mean,
Oh,
makes me cry because if it wasn't for
that
him.
is so sweet. So, I think that's do you wanna tell me a little bit about how you and your husband met?
Aw, yeah, of course. So by the way, he's my soulmate, and we've been married, oh my gosh, 27 years now.
Congratulations. Every year is monumental, but you guys are coming up on 30 and you're still so young.
Oh, you're so sweet. I don't feel that young, but thank you.
Oh, eh,
Yeah, so we actually, him and I think we just have an entrepreneur spirit because we actually met at a conference in our early 20s. We were both at a business conference and we just happened to have mutual friends at that conference. So that's how we initially met. We were
okay.
introduced at a conference. Yeah. And I was still in San Diego at the time. And I came up to this conference in San Francisco. And that's where we initially met. And then I went back to San Diego. And then I came home for the summer because this is where my whole family is here in the Bay Area, and ran into him again, and we just hit it off. So just started to just talk on the phone, and it was kind of like a long distance because I was still in San Diego. So um, it was really nice because when you're on the phone every night, it kind of it almost I feel like it just made our relationship grow quicker.
Mhm.
I mean, I was older, so him and I had just come out of long-term relationships ourselves and weren't really looking, but we were more like friends in the beginning. But I don't know. I think back then we would actually write each other because we didn't have
Oh,
cell phones yet.
yeah. Do you,
And
I almost feel like that's better though, because you have to be even more intentional to write a letter.
exactly. And
Yeah.
and creative with our letters. I'd make like cute little, being the preschool teacher background, I would like create all these really cute little letters and things that I would send him. And it's so cute. The other, gosh, a few weeks back, he mentioned that he still had all of them in an
Oh,
envelope in his desk. So I thought that was
what
really
a
sweet.
romantic he is.
But he's really not. That's the crazy thing. He's not that much of a romantic. And I always feel bad. I tell my kids, I go, the one and only time your father attempted to be romantic, I totally blew it.
That's like me. Every time my husband like tries, I'm like, "Oh, what are you doing?" But then I'm also like, "Romance me."
Yeah. Oh, I know. I feel so bad for him. He tried really hard to make his proposal very special for us, and it all fell by the wayside because I missed my plane.
Oh my
I
gosh.
Yeah, he was so cute. He actually had the exact booth in the restaurant that his father proposed to his mom. It was all, like, reserved and ready for us, and I
That's
missed my plane, so we missed our reservation, so and
Oh my gosh.
he didn't wanna wait any longer. He didn't wanna go through the whole weekend and not proposing, so he picked me up, sat me on top of his truck, and proposed to me in the garage parking.
Oh. He's like,
But
"Listen, I had a plan, but
that
you ruined it."
I did. So, anyways, but
That's
no,
so funny. So
it's really
you mentioned having kids. Tell me about starting your family.
um,
Did you always know that you wanted to be a mom?
yeah, actually, again, that's why I wanted to work with kids. I really love kids. And the joke was my sister and I both said we both wanted 4 or 5 kids, and, it took us a long time, unfortunately. So, 7 years to get pregnant with my son.
Wow.
Hindsight, the way I look at it is God had a bigger plan because had I started our family when I wanted to, I wouldn't have been able to build up the business. And the whole reason I wanted to be my own boss is I wanted to be able to schedule my own time.
What's up, everyone? It's Morgan, the producer of this beautiful show and also the host of the Half Hood, Half Holy podcast. Just jumping in here with a word from our sponsor.
Hey there, friend. I'm Danielle Damrell, and for so long, I thought my brain was broken beyond repair. I could identify all the problems with my life, but I didn't feel like I was actually capable of fixing them. After 12 plus years of intensive therapy, I realized that there was never going to be a quick fix. The solution lied in showing up to check in and care for myself. Time where I set intentions like processing who I am at my core and processing what it would look and feel like to be fully present in order to authentically connect with my family, friends, and my community. Healing doesn't happen overnight, and everyone's journey looks different. Developing resilience happens through continuing to persevere in the hard times and finding peace and joy in life, even when you're walking through an overwhelming, confusing, or even downright scary season. This realization is how I discovered creative processing, a method that combines many coping skills and mental health tools into a tangible action that has immediate grounding effects. And the best part? You're probably already doing it. But now, I have finally found a way to show you how to utilize it as a skill in your everyday life. I would like to invite you, yes, you, to join me on the evening of January 17th at 5:30 Mountain Standard Time for a free creative processing workshop. Our intention is going to be to process you. I will take you on a journey of what it looks like to actually put creative processing into action. Taking time to process who you are at your core is not selfish. In fact, think of this as a whole new way to practice self-care, a way for you to dive into your subconscious and draw out all the ways that you are uniquely you in order to create space in your fast-paced life to dream and overcome all the creative and emotional blocks we all face all the time. Sometimes we just need a little guidance to bump us back into living in alignment. So come, bring your favorite pen, download the guidebook that I've created just for you, and let's process through creating together. I want to take a minute to speak directly to any mamas for a second. As moms, we don't always feel like we have the right to slow down. But the truth is, your mind, body, and soul needs you to slow the frick down. You need time to check in and care for yourself. So schedule a babysitter or put your husband on kid duty, because I promise this is an opportunity for you to fill your cup. All right, everyone. The link to register is in the show notes. Save your seat today, and I'll see you there.
Hi, everyone. It's me again. I just want to say, I've actually been through this workshop twice now, and I am not the meeting/workshop type of person. And she's not lying when she says this will really help you connect with yourself. Not only that, but I have experienced how close my connection with God can actually be when I just take time to really focus in on me. So just give it a try. What's there to lose? Also, if you haven't already, make sure to check out the Half Hood, Half Holy podcast, where Danielle and I take nothing serious except for our love for the Lord.
It's a pretty explicitly Christian comedy podcast, so make sure to listen if you want to laugh a little.
Okay, back to the show.
So that when we did have kids, I wanted to be like that room mom, the mom that went on all the field trips and things like that. So because it took us a while to have kids, I just went ahead and put my head down and built up my business and got it to the point where I didn't have to go to work every day. And so then when God blessed us with my son 7 years later, yeah, it was great because then as he grew up and my daughter grew up, I was able to make my own schedule, and I was that homeroom mom, and I was, the one that got to go on all their field trips. I didn't miss any of their field trips. I didn't miss any of their school performances. So for those of you out there that are listening, if you're creatives and you have a business of your own and you don't have kids yet, but you want kids someday, definitely build your business now, so that you can afford the luxury of the time to spend with your kids and your family.
I don't
Um,
know if you know this about me, but my husband and I have been going through infertility for 3.5 years. I
oh,
do
I'm
have one daughter. She's
thrilled.
from biologically from a relationship when I was only 19. So
Okay.
we've got my little blessing. But
Yay.
of course, my husband and we've always wanted a lot of kids. I want six. He was like, Danielle, if we have kids, you have to settle for four. And I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
okay. But
Yeah.
we didn't know, obviously, when we started trying that we would be going through infertility. It's actually male factor infertility. But
Okay.
we've gone through a few different procedures already. And we're kind of in a waiting season of deciding, like, do we just wait or,
Oh,
take it to the next step of IVF? And right now we don't have peace about that. So
yeah.
you telling your story is like, I just feel like this is a God moment where I'm like, okay, wow, like you are encouraging my spirit so, so, so much. And I know that's going to be the case for a lot of other listeners as well.
Oh,
Just that reminder that, I mean, we hear it all the time. It's God's timing over our timing, but
yeah.
there's a purpose for that timing. And
Yeah.
your testimony and your story of becoming a mother is evidence of that timing, how he used your
Yeah.
growth to be able to prepare you for motherhood so that it wasn't something
Mm,
that you were not able to be present fully for your kids. He really gave you
right.
your kids at the right time so that you could be fully present. And I
Yeah.
think that's something I've struggled with because I'm still like in the beginning phases of my career. I have had my business for 5 years, but I'm taking it in a whole new direction now.
Right.
And I'm really trying to figure out how to like stabilize my income and all of those different things. And it's so easy for me to be like, but we want a baby. But also, it would be so much better if we were just a little more financially stable and I had the ability to not work 7 days a week
Mhm.
and all of
Yeah.
that. So, thank you for sharing that. I had no idea you had walked through that.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, at the time when you're going through it, it just seems like forever. And you pray, and you're like, I believe that God had a plan for us, but you're human. And at the time, you want what you want. But yeah, I hope that does encourage you because it did take us 7 years. I thought I would never, I actually was getting very scared and thought, oh my gosh, here I am. I want to be a mom so bad, but I can't even have, my own child. So we actually were looking at adoption. And it's just, how they always say when you stop thinking about it, all of a sudden you get pregnant.
Yeah.
So I have to tell you the circumstances of when I did get pregnant, which was crazy. We had been waiting for years. I actually was about to go and start infertility testing. I literally had my first test that Wednesday. Prior to that, my father had had a really bad stroke and heart attack. And I was fortunately at the time had built up my business so that I could be with him every day. So, of course, the last thing on my mind was getting pregnant. I was focused on my mom, helping my dad recover. Um, and then all of a sudden, for some reason, my husband's like, yeah, let's go ahead and maybe look into adoption or infertility or whatever. And he went to hug me on a Monday morning, and Wednesday was my first test for infertility testing just to kind of explore it. And I remember my boobs hurt when he hugged me. And I thought, that's weird. And then I thought, wait, when was my last period?
Yeah.
thought, no, like, there's no way. And so I ran to the store and got I just grabbed whatever pregnancy test I could find, paid for it, went home and took the test. And when I took the test, so the test says write 2 lines and you're pregnant.
Yeah.
Well, I looked at it and it's like one line, and then there was like a faint line, but that wasn't in any of the choices. Like,
Yeah. You're like, wait a minute.
what is that? And I'm like, this must be a defective test. I threw it out, ran back to the store, bought the most expensive pregnancy test you could find, went home, took the test, same thing, like this faint line. I'm like, what the heck? Then I pulled out the last one and it was completely dark. So I think I just didn't wait long enough. Then all of a
Oh.
sudden, yeah, so then they both got darker and darker. I'm like, okay, does that mean I'm pregnant? So yeah, then
So, how
I
did you tell your husband?
um oh my gosh, it's so funny. It's so funny how guys are just not like, they don't really pay attention sometimes.
Yeah.
I stuck the pregnancy test in this may sound gross, but I stuck it in a Ziploc bag and in a card with him, and I gave him the card, and the card was all about, like, bedtime stories and fatherhood and all this, and he's
Oh.
just like, "I don't get it." Open the card. And he opened the card and I finally saw the pregnancy test, and he went, "Wait, what?" And it was a good thing there was a couch right there because he literally, like, fell over. He was in
Oh
shock.
my gosh.
Yeah, so that's how I told him.
That's amazing. And then how long after having your first did you have your second?
Yeah, so that's when my son turned 1, I told my husband, I said, "I still want another child if possible." And so we went ahead and started trying, and sure enough, like 2.5 years later, I had my daughter. So it's just,
Wow.
yeah, really interesting how, like, my brother, they had no problem having their first child. It was their second child, it was hard for them. For us, it was the opposite. First
Right.
child took forever, second child, no problem. So yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
Man, that if that's not God, I don't know what is, right? Like you're like trying for 7 years.
I
That's
know.
amazing. Oh my
Yeah, and
gosh.
it's because it took us so long too. We always end up being like the oldest parents in our kids' friend groups because their parents are all like, 7, 8, 9, 10 years younger than us. But It doesn't matter. We're just so
No,
glad that.
I'm the youngest because I had my daughter at 19.
Oh, got
So,
it.
so yeah, all of the parents are, but my husband is 14 years older than me. So they're all his age.
Got it. Okay. Okay.
But yeah, I feel like that realization of like, okay, I understand again now this cliche phrase of age is but a number. It really is but
Yeah.
a number, right? Like we are all capable human beings who are doing our best. Yeah.
Exactly. And even though the moms are a different age than me, because we're in the same season of life with our kids, it really doesn't matter because we're going
No.
through the same issues, the same growth, the same ups and downs with our kids. So yeah,
Right.
that's why I don't think that the age really does matter at that point. So
I love that.
yeah.
So tell me a little bit about your faith. I know that in the um, pre-interview information that I sent over to you, I asked what your favorite verse or quote is, and you put Jeremiah 29:11, which is, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans
Mhm.
to prosper you, not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future." So how did that become your favorite verse? Tell me a little bit about your faith journey.
So again, another blessing about having kids is we knew with our faith, we knew that it was going to be important to raise our kids with our faith. And so we actually made the decision from the beginning that we were going to let our kids go to private school, even though it wasn't something we could really afford. We budgeted it. We didn't have fancy cars. We didn't take a lot of trips or anything like that. We really wanted to put it into our kids education and learning about Jesus Christ and being a Christian. Um, and so to answer your question about the verse, it actually was my daughter's favorite verse.
Oh,
And she would always talk about it and read it. And it became my verse because it really did resonate with how my life has been, like having not being able to have a baby right away. It's because he had a bigger plan for me, and at the time you just don't think of that when you're in the midst of everything. You can't see the bigger picture, and it's okay if you can't see the bigger picture because at the end of the day, I know God has me in his hands and he's got a plan for me. He's got a purpose for me. And actually that is my dream job, is to do makeup and hair on the set of faith-based films like The Chosen and movies like that. That's like my dream job.
I would love to see you do that. I have you watched The Chosen?
Oh yes, we can't wait for season 3 to start. So
I have only seen the first episode. I am not a great TV watcher because I like fall asleep when I
oh,
watch
you're like,
TV.
yeah, that's like
Yeah.
my husband.
So I always end up like having to go back and rewatch the same thing multiple times before I like
Yep.
actually see the whole season or the
Yeah,
whole episode. Um,
got it.
but I have heard such incredible things about that series. And yeah,
Oh,
that would I mean, you're in California, right? Do they film there?
Um, a lot of it was in Texas, I think.
Oh,
Yeah. And it was during COVID. That was the amazing thing. They were able to finish a lot of it during COVID. Um, but yeah, just if you get a chance, like listen to like the backstories and stuff and all the adversities they had to go through to make this even happen. It really is truly amazing.
wow.
Kind of the almost like spiritual warfare that was happening with them and trying to get this movie to actually be
Well,
done.
of course, of course. The enemy doesn't want there to be truth out
Right.
in the world, especially truth that impacts a wide range of people. And having a TV series or a series like The Chosen that's
Right.
available to everyone, I could see
Mhm.
I would be shocked if there wasn't spiritual
Oh, yeah.
warfare going on.
Yeah, you'd be kind of worried, I think.
Yeah, I'd be like, okay, what's going on? Whose spirit's off?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Well,
so you
that's
gotta
exciting. Oh, well,
really
I'm
do.
gonna pray that
Oh.
comes to be for you because that would be really freaking cool. And you're
I
already doing such big things in the makeup world that it's really not an unobtainable goal.
yeah, I mean, I feel like, if I just get the opening, I definitely want to take it. I've actually done a couple of faith-based films already, and that's kind of how I got a taste of it. And I thought, oh, maybe this is the reason why I have these gifts, right? Because I pray in the mornings to ask God to allow me to use my gifts to further His kingdom, and I'm like, well, how could I do that? Well, maybe on faith-based films or things like that,
Yes. God
be
uses all of our individual gifts to
right.
benefit his. And I do want to encourage you that like right now in what you're doing, even in bridal makeup and female entrepreneurial makeup.
Yeah.
There we go. God is at work through you as well. Like even just I met you in person at a conference in North Carolina just a couple months ago, and I immediately was like, "Oh, this girl, this lady, she is shining." So I
Aw.
feel like I could see the Lord through you, and like just your presence is exudes the love of Christ. So I just want to encourage you in that like wherever you are, God is with you and he is working through you and shining through you. And
Oh, you're so
you're
sweet.
amazing.
So nice to meet another believer. Sometimes
Yes,
I feel like I'm the only one, but,
for sure.
great.
Nope.
Thank
We're out
you.
there.
Yeah.
So I asked you also about your creative processing method, and you mentioned creating aesthetically pleasing checklists on Canva to plan out events or beauty classes, and that you also love to organize and decorate to get your creative process going. Have
Mhm.
I explained to you my definition of creative processing?
No, I don't think you have.
Okay. So creative processing is a tool, like a coping skill that we can all use to activate our creative minds to process through any certain intention. So
Okay.
a prompt that you could use is the purpose of doing fill in your creative method is to process, fill in whatever you're wanting to process. So
Okay.
both of what you shared are definitely creative processing methods. But the reason that I bring this up in the show is because creative processing is something that we all are all subconsciously doing pretty much every single day in different
Okay.
ways. Some people are creating spreadsheets, some people are creating checklists on Canva, some people are drawing, some people are writing. Whatever way you engage your creative mind, and for more analytical minds, they engage it in different ways. For
Mhm.
creatives, it usually does have more of that artistic flair. So the reason that I believe that this is something that's really transformational and something that I want more people to learn and know about is because when we know how to utilize something as a tool, then it turns into a skill that then becomes muscle memory. And when you are utilizing creative processing with intention,
Mhm.
it brings clarity, joy, and purpose into whatever you're doing. So if you're feeling stuck or you're feeling sad or you're just needing to process through a bad day, the
Mhm.
act of creating intentionally can move that needle forward even just one step or can improve
Mhm.
your mindset just 1%. And that's what we're called to do, right? Is just continue to walk forward in the ways that we can. I've
Right.
been in therapy consistently for over 12 years and have learned a ton of different coping skills. But what I realized back in 2021 was that creating in itself could be a coping skill if used again with intention. So,
Mhm.
with creative processing, I actually just hosted my very first creative processing workshop last night just to
Oh.
try it out and see is a guided creative processing workshop going to actually serve people and help people to get out of even just the immediate feelings of anxiety or depression or whatever,
Okay.
so that there's some sort of peace and hope and clarity that we can find even if we're living in the middle of a chaotic season. And what I found just from last night with the 7 people that showed up was that it does work. Like I've known that it works because I talk to a lot of different people who we uncover those threads and then we talk about how we can use those things with intention. But I saw it in action when you set apart. We just did 3 different prompts, 15 minutes, and all of a sudden there was clarity. They felt hope. There was a little bit more direction. It's not that you have all the answers. It's not about you becoming a brand new human being, right? It's about
Mhm.
changing your mind just 1% so that you can
Right.
continue looking forward. So, all of that to say, my creative processing soapbox. I love that you that organizing is part of your creative processing method. That's the tool in your toolbox that you probably use the most often. And it sounds like with organizing, there's usually an intention that's already set. So, do you want to give me an example of how you utilize organization to
Yeah.
continue moving forward?
So, I, I've never taken those Enneagram tests, but back in the day, it was just a personality test. And I know my personality is I'm a, what they call a, oh my gosh, now I forgot the name of it, but I'm an expressive. And I always have FOMO. Like I want to do everything. I
Yes.
don't want to be left out of anything. But what ends up happening is when I say yes to everything and I have so many plates I'm spinning, I get disorganized.
Hmm.
And when I'm disorganized, I can't even focus on enjoying anything that I've
Right.
got started. So for me, I mean, you asking that question originally, I had to really sit and think, how do I then allow the creative process to happen when I'm in chaos like that? Because I feel like
Hmm.
sometimes that's how I am through the whole week. It's just chaotic with all the different lists and everything that I got to do, and just having that organizational process of putting everything back into an organized fashion
Hmm.
helped me to calm down and not have the anxiety that I was
Yeah.
having looking at all the different things I still had to get done, um, with Thanksgiving just right around the corner,
Right.
you know? So, yeah, for me, it's just literally putting everything back into an organized fashion so that even though I have a million things to do, at least they're all organized, they're all listed in in the priority that they need to be focused on. And it allows my brain to just go, okay, take a deep breath,
I can breathe.
do it.
Exactly. Thank you so much for sharing about that. Yes. So, my goal with creative processing and talking about it and having these conversations is really to be completely honest. I would love for this to be something that, like, you just know, like, oh my gosh, I'm feeling so stressed out, or
Yeah,
like I'm spinning. I just need 20 minutes to do some creative processing.
yeah,
Because when you have a term like that, it's one of those when you know better, you do better, right?
right,
And
right.
a lot of times we can identify the problem like, oh, I'm so disorganized, or oh, I'm struggling with anxiety because X, Y, and Z happened. But how do you actually conquer the problem? Right. And we get stuck on this, like, I know about it, but I can't figure out how to fix it. And a tool is that bridge. Creative
Yeah,
processing can be that bridge to conquering that problem. And
right.
that's so, so important. Like, we all need that. No matter what you're going through at any season of life, there's going to be days that are hard, or
Yeah,
challenges that you're facing. And we need to have tools that we can get through them. And not everybody can afford therapy. So even if you
right.
just have a certain term like creative processing that you're like, oh, you know what? I do know how to do that. I can do that. I
Yeah.
can sit down and I can fill in the prompt of the purpose of creating a list is to process my week. I can do
Hmm.
that. Like, it just makes it a little bit more tangible.
Well, thank you because I didn't even know that's what I was doing. But
Yeah.
now that you're, like you said, now that I'm aware of it, I will definitely be more intentional about when I do sit down to organize things and be more intentional, like you said, because I don't like just constantly being in the operation of urgency and chaos, which I feel like a lot of us tend to do.
Yeah.
Um,
And we get stuck in it. It's like a hamster wheel of just like, I'm in chaos. I'm in chaos. I'm in chaos. Well, what can we do to like stop that?
yeah, exactly. Well,
We
and
have to show up.
the other thing I'm starting to learn as a creative process is also just delegating some of that
Hmm.
stuff, you
Yeah.
know. So looking at getting a VA now, so that's something on my list to kind of just offload some of that stuff that I
Yeah.
really don't need to be doing. And yeah,
I
and
love that.
kind of exciting actually. It'd be nice to
That's
not be.
super
Yeah.
exciting. So, yeah,
So
why don't you tell me a little bit about what's next in your business?
So what's next in my business is quite a bit. I don't know if you knew this, but my modern beauty is actually my more of my bridal and makeup. And then where we're sitting in today is my brick and mortar, which is my skincare studio. So it's called
Okay.
LG Waxing and Aesthetics. So we do all of the trial runs here, but we also do the facials and the waxing and all of the aesthetics here. The day of the wedding, we go on location. So they're kind of like two different businesses right now. Mainly because the wedding business started first. That's the one that I created in my home. And then this one was a partnership that I had. And she moved back to Israel prior to COVID, and I bought it from her. So I have these two different businesses, and honestly, it's hard enough to run one.
Yeah.
So, so what we're doing is before the end of the year is kind of merging the two. So then I'm kind of combining the names. So it'll be modern beauty and aesthetic,
I love
that
that.
people realize that we still, we do the aesthetic side of it, which is a benefit for the brides because they can come in and get facials and get their gut checked and helped and their skin looking great for the wedding. So I'm trying to encompass it all. So we're going to merge the two together. So I just got some new logos, new branding, everything.
How fun.
So yeah, I'm excited for that. And like I said, trying to delegate. So I hired someone who's going to help with my HR. I hired my first virtual CFO ever, which was scary and exciting at the same time.
Yeah.
And I just hired my second esthetician. So now I have two estheticians working.
That's
So
amazing. Look at you growing and expanding. That's so exciting. Well, next year, we're
yes.
speaking life over next year. Next year's going to be the year of growth.
Yay. Yes.
Yes.
That would be wonderful. Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
So, where can people find and connect with you?
So you can go to my website. It is getting changed over, but for now it's still modernbeauty.com. And modern has the E at the end of it. So it's MODERNE beauty.com. And then I believe I sent you, I do have a free downloadable PDF for all of my entrepreneur women that maybe have struggle a little bit with getting ready before they get on camera. I have my seven tips of how to show up confident on camera. So
Yes. And we
we'd
will
love.
have all of that in the show notes. We will have all of Monina's contact information. And where is your brick and mortar located?
I'm in the Bay Area, so I'm in
Okay.
San Jose. If for those of you who are in San Jose, I'm in a little area called Willow Glen, and that's where my shop is.
Amazing. So, yes, I'm sure if you Google her, she'll pop right up and you can get in contact that way as well. But we will have her information in the show notes. So,
Awesome.
so grateful to have spent some time with you here today and for your courage and vulnerability to share your story.
Oh, thank
Keep-
you too for sharing
Yes.
your story. I had no idea. I'll be praying for you, my friend.
Thank
And I
you.
know you will
Yes. And
be
I'm going to be praying for you and all of your business happenings.
Thank you so
Yes.
much.
I
Appreciate it.
just want to encourage you to keep glowing and helping other women embrace their natural beauty to feel confident in their own skin. You,
Yeah.
my friend, are created worthy. Thanks for tuning in to the Created Worthy podcast. If anything in today's show resonated with you, can you do me a huge favor and go leave a 5-star review? This helps more listeners find the show, and it also expands the impact, messages, and stories that are shared here. All the links and guest information are in the show notes. If you're on social media, I want to personally invite you to continue the conversations about these important topics that we're talking about. You can find Created Worthy on both Instagram and Facebook by just typing in Created Worthy Podcast. Can't wait to talk to you soon, friend. And don't forget, you are created worthy.